Hello and welcome to today's Smart Divorce podcast. And I'm really chuffed to be joined today by a very old friend, my friend Danny Franks, who we met doing networking a very, very long time ago, and recently realised that some of the work that Danny does could be massively helpful to you out there. So I'm going to ask Danny to introduce you, and I'm thinking he's going to use a slightly different introduction to the one he used when he introduced himself to me all those years ago. So welcome, Danny. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Tamsin. Good to see you again.
And you, can you tell us a little bit about you and your business and the sort of work that you do?
So the work that I do is general technical IT, and helping people secure their networks and their technology. And I suppose in the last 6-12 months, I've been focusing on helping individuals with their technology, home IT, home businesses. And then recently, I've been asked by some individuals to help them understand their own technology, because some strange things have been happening with their technology or their information.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's at this point that we felt that we might have some things in common and some things you could help our listeners with. So during this series, we've talked a lot about domestic abuse, and we know that one of the ways in which victim survivors are targeted is by the perpetrator having sight of their IT, having tracking devices. And I know that's something that you've worked with a number of people on recently. So could you tell us a little bit about how those people have come to you, and about what you can do if an individual suspects there is tracking on their devices?
Okay, so I was referred some months ago by a friend of mine who I was looking after their technology, saying, can you help out a friend of mine? She's not really got on the technology. She just wants some help, like logging into accounts, saving new passwords, and just transferring over certain information so she could become more independent with her technology from her partner. Now, at that time, I didn't know she was going through a divorce, but it became quite apparent when I was working with her on the first visit that, there were forwarders on a mail. There was shared accounts whereby she didn't know the passwords to those shared accounts, and some of her own accounts she didn't know the passwords to. Which she thought strange, but she didn't think anything of it because she thought she'd just forgotten about it. And so as time went on, we realised that some of the emails were being forwarded. Well, not some of the emails, a lot of it, all her emails were being forwarded to a partner. And anything incoming or outgoing was being surveilled by a partner. At which point there was a bit of a red flag, and I said, we need to stop this. Did you know about this? And she came back and said, I wondered why he was always one step ahead of me when it came to negotiations, speaking to my lawyer. So I can't say I fell into this sort of work, but it's the first time I've come across work or I was going to say a client whereby they've not been hacked. It's almost a soft hack. So when somebody's systems goes down and they don't know who it is, and they've got ransomware, then that's very different than this, because they're being targeted from the inside and they don't know about it.
Yeah.
So I was able to identify the issues and rectify them.
Yeah, absolutely. So in those sorts of situations, is it a question of having to set up brand new accounts and having to almost start from scratch? Is there things that can be done with existing accounts? What would this be?
Well, interestingly, the second client that I came across with this sort of thing, we set up a completely new account for her to liaise with her solicitor on. because we thought it might have been, how can I say, in her interest for her other half to understand, how can I say, to lead them down the, not leading them down the garden path, but let them have other information.
Okay.
So that, you know, she was aware of it. She said, I don't want to actually block this off, but I want a new account. I want to make sure it's secure. I want to change all my personal access to my new email account. And it was just going through them and just ensuring all of that was happening. So it wasn't as straightforward as I thought, as you've just suggested. Yeah, dead easy. Just get the account back, rename it. This was more of on my second client, whereby they just wanted to get almost, how can I say, just manage the situation in a different way. Let's put it like that. Sure. Whereby they then had a new email address, which they were then liaising with their, their solicitor.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And have you come across anybody who's got trackers put on their kind of other, I guess, we all think WhatsApp, I guess, is the big example, because we all think that's pretty safe and secure, because we all think it's I can't remember the word, but
it's encrypted, it's point-to-point encrypted.
Yeah, when it goes from one to another. But I know there's been instances of people having trackers on their hardware that seem to be able to track those sorts of things as well. So are you able to help with that?
So with WhatsApp, again, it's fairly easy to reset up if you get the user's phone. Now, if there's any preemptive thought to what somebody else is doing, they can quite easily set up a WhatsApp account, or should I say shared WhatsApp, on their PC or their laptop or their desktop of their partner without the partner really knowing, to see the messages coming in and going out. And that isn't a bit of software, that's just WhatsApp itself. There's some Find Me software, which is part of Google, which can be enabled, which is buried a couple of layers down within the software, where it just is turned on. So again, that can be easily done if somebody has the right knowledge to be able to turn that on their partner's phone and say, I'm tracking you. There's nothing that pops up each day to say your phone is being tracked or you are being tracked. So the user wouldn't really have knowledge of that. And if the partner has been the one that looks after the technology, look after the phones, it's quite easy for them to do that on a how can I say, in a way that isn't going to be suspicious. It can be all premeditated, it can all be pre-planned, and if they've got a history of controlling their partner, then this might be something that's been going on for a long time. So it's being able to identify that sort of action that's been taken on the phones as well, quite early on. So they don't necessarily need to install any specific software. I think the software is already on the phone for somebody to get access to it.
Yeah, so it's about having those pieces of software on a different, like replicated on a different device, and that information just feeds straight through to it.
Correct. And the end user doesn't necessarily know. So I suppose if you were to set up WhatsApp on your desktop, you would be able to see the WhatsApp messages both on your phone and on your desktop, but you don't get notified on your phone to say it's coming through to your desktop as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what can you do about that then? Because that's really frightening that can be going on without your knowledge at all.
So it's just being aware. I mean, you can check on your WhatsApp what devices are connected. You can check your Google locations, whether you're sharing your locations. You can check if there's any forwarders on your emails going to any other accounts, and any diverts on any emails going out. So there's some things that you can check quite easily, and then you should also be aware of software which you're not familiar with, or apps on your phone that you're not familiar with. But as most of us have got over 50 or 60 apps on our phones, sometimes very difficult to sift through, which ones you've put on recently and those that you've put on years ago, or those that have transferred from an old device to those that somebody else might have put on to track you. So it can be challenging, but it's a case of understanding your own technology and being aware of the devices that you use, having some control on that, and ensuring that you know what you're doing, or get some help to know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with the people that I work with who aren't used to looking after their own money. If you're not particularly technologically, can't speak, savvy, then you do need somebody to help you out, don't you? And that's where you come in, I guess. So what would the process be that you would go through if you were approached by somebody who wanted to check out whether they were being tracked, whether emails were being forwarded, etc.?
So what would the process be when I first met them, or they give me a call? So initially it'd be a call. The way that it has happened is it's a fairly straightforward, a call. I go and see the client. I don't work remotely. I'll pretty much have a look at their laptops and their mobile phones, and any other devices that they've got. See if it's connected to home heating or CCTV or music systems, because they can play a part as well, whereby the partner might be setting alarms or setting systems to come on during the day, and the partner doesn't know how to work the music system or turn the CCTV on or off, and so on and so forth. So it's basically doing a mini audit, but a soft audit just to talk through, understand any of the concerns my clients have got regarding the data, regarding how they use it, and then just walking them through each of the products that they use. If they're really not happy with, how can I say, how they're feeling, we can reinstall the machine, put new passwords on it, reinstall the software, give them a new Gmail account or email account, not necessarily Gmail, it could be Outlook, and start afresh so that they are completely separate from their partner's, how can I say, technology world, and they can start again.
And I guess I'm thinking about so I live with my two kids. I've got my personal phone, I've got a work phone, I've got a laptop, lots of people have iPads. And then, of course, there's the kids' technology in the house, which is easily accessible by the ex, probably more so than the technology belonging to themselves. So I guess it's looking at everything in the household, is it?
It's understanding the technology landscape of pretty much everything in the home and within the family. What connects to what accounts are being shared. So I do know people do share their Apple Cloud accounts because they get a better deal on data. It's that sort of thing. What's going on Netflix? What's going on Prime? And so on and so forth. So all of these things have got to be untangled, so that the person, when they split up, have got complete control of their own digital lives and not depending on anybody else for it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my clients who I was speaking to this morning, her ex-husband has control over when her electric car charges.
Okay.
And there's even things like that. So much is controlled from our mobile phone. You just have no, if you're separated from a coercive and controlling person, and that's the behavior that you've had in the relationship, post separation, they can use these apps, can't they, to create havoc and still have a control over the lives of the person they're separated from.
So it's interesting what you say about that, because I suppose it's one thing I haven't come across is the when can you charge your car app. Yeah. But again, each time I speak to people, or other other things get added into the mix. So this portfolio of products and services that are being shared by each other that you've got to split up is another item on the checklist to go. And what about this? You know, what about, as well as the heating, the CCTV, the alarm systems, the so on and so forth. The car charging is another thing, but also, I suppose, is, you know, the access to the records for that vehicle once the separation has gone through, and say, I want that, all the electronic information on that to come to me, and it is in a separate account that your partner's not got any access to. So it's, you know, this digital footprint that we've got has got to be separated, and there will be things that, you know, we when I say we can't always know everything about everyone all the time with regard to the data and their apps that they're using, it does become fairly apparent after some time. You think, yes, what about, for example, the car charger, or what about the heating, because the heating's coming on at strange times, or it's not coming on, or it goes on, it goes off. So it is getting control of that and how to separate the accounts out, or just understanding that that sort of thing is happening. And until you're no longer living in the same home, what you can and can't do. I suppose it's understanding the limitations of the software that you've got as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really interesting subject, and it's not something that I've thought of before, but actually even outside an abusive relationship, even in any normal relationship, these things still need to be dealt with, don't they? These things still need to be separated. And you know, we talk about the finances, we talk about the who's having the Westlife CD and who's having the whatever books, but this is something it's something that I've not thought about. Maybe other people have, but it's something that I've not thought about in terms of my clients and the work that they need to do. Now, I know you said you work with people and it needs to be in person. So what sort of radius do you cover? What's the areas that you work in?
Okay, so I was going to say, relatively speaking, it is North Cheshire, leading into Manchester. So, all the way up to Hale, Altrincham, and round to Sale, coming round Northern Moor and Stockport, and then the rest of it coming round into Wilmslow, Alderley Edge, Macclesfield, that sort of area. So again, what I'm trying to be is quite focused. So I'm not dealing with a client of, say, in Carlisle, because sometimes it can be very difficult to give that response. Yes, I can do remote work, and we all do so much remote work, but I think when it's quite sensitive, it's a lot easier to work with somebody on a one-to-one on their equipment that they've got, and especially trying to work across the number of devices that people have. It's not necessarily just a desktop. So it's important for me to be available to those clients to say, got an issue with this, or do you know that new password we've set up, it's just not saving on my machine, and I really need that every day, and I need to, and I can sit with them and I can go through them with authentication on their mobile phones and so on and so forth. So it's not a one solution fits all. I think it's very bespoke for each person that I'm seeing.
Yeah, important, very important work. So a lot of our listeners will be outside of your geographical circle. How would they go about finding the right person? Like, I wouldn't have a clue where to start Googling somebody to do the sort of work that you do. Where do they start? What are they looking for?
So I would think that I was found through recommendation, and I think that is, one way to do it, and I think it's probably the best way, because the recommendation from a personal friend to me was saying, yeah, this is personally, Danny will look after you, and I don't want to say go and have a look at this particular trusted trader, find an IT man, because you don't know who they are or who they know. Whereas if you know somebody within your your social circle, or ask around with your friends, and you keep that quite tight, because again, confidentiality is quite important. You know, or if the solicitor knows somebody as well that can advise in the same way as they may be able to advise somebody to do the finances, to do year end, and so on and so forth. So it's finding a trusted IT person that's outside of that area,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
I work.
So you're looking for somebody who provides IT support, essentially, is
Yeah,
but obviously being careful, because what you don't want to do is alert the perpetrator to what's happening. So obviously being careful about who you ask, I guess.
correct. And I think if I said to you, I'm quite curious and inquisitive when I speak to somebody, and I'm quite probing. You might get some IT guys who go, "Yeah, I see the problem, fix it, and come away," and go, "Oh, I've not thought about your heating or your car or your CCTV." They just go, "All right, I've taken the folders off your email. There you go, off you go. You'll be safe now." But they've not looked at the wider picture. So that IT person has got to fit the role of what they're trying to do, rather than just have a small remit and be, yeah, I'll sort your IT out. But I can't help you with your car because I don't drive an electric car, or I can't help you with X, Y, Z because I'm not in that remit. I think it needs somebody who is inquisitive, who can go out and say, listen, I don't know your particular CCTV system, but I can go and find out. I can come back. I can find out whether you can get dual access, whether that access can be separated, and then revert back. And even though CCTV isn't part of the IT remit, they can help them with it. It's being able to take them, on the whole journey for that technology separation, I suppose.
Yeah, we almost need to clone Danny's across the UK, or failing that, like build some kind of network, don't we, of people who can do this kind of work and understand the breadth of it. Because it started off, we were talking about email forwarding, and actually it's so
Right.
much wider than that, isn't it?
It has grown, and it is a lot wider. And and I suppose the other bit of information is, the digital stuff, the photographs. It's getting hold of them, and being able to manage those. And it might be fairly straightforward copying everything, but you want to make sure that you've got all your information, so you're not having to go back and keep on going back.
Yeah.
And somebody's, your ex is saying, I'm not giving you that because I want something in return. It's all part of that bit. And I suppose the solicitors also have to be aware. You've got to be aware of what what the technology. I was going to say, hold the partner has on your client. Because they might not be technology savvy. They might just have a mobile phone and their own laptop, or a shared laptop that the partner has access to. So it might be, saying, right, you really need to be independent technology-wise. And that might say, look, you either get another laptop, or you don't use a laptop at all, you use everything on your mobile phone, and just control, they have their own account with their own phone, and they do everything on the phone at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a minefield, this area, isn't it? It's there's so many things that you just don't think about. You think, well, that's odd. How have they known about that? Or how did they know that's where I was?
Yeah.
And then it's only when you start digging into these things that it becomes clearer. There is a piece of technology called Our Family Wizard, and we spoke to James from Our Family Wizard a couple of series ago, and that does have it's very secure way of communicating with exes. So secure messaging service, that date stamps aren't amendable, that messages aren't amendable, that it can pick up a lot of things. You can have shared calendars in there rather than sharing calendars externally. So I think something like that is also a good thing to be thinking of using.
Yeah.
I know a client had a problem with it in terms of the ex was sending huge messages through it, and she was having to read these enormous messages, but with just sort of one line of text that was important in the huge message, which again can add to the abuse. But at least those things can't be changed. They can be printed out and submitted to court. They can be used, and you're not risking things being forwarded on from external sources as well, using something like that.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm not familiar with that software, but we'll go out and have a look.
It's worth having a look at. Yeah, there's a number of our clients use it, and a lot of solicitors are using it now, and some of the courts have actually required that the two people, particularly where there's parents and the children issues, use that program. It is really good. We're coming to the end of our time together, Danny. It's been fabulous to talk to you. Is there anything that you'd like to add that we've not discussed, or that you think you'd like our listeners to have as a final word?
I suppose if they've got any suspicion at all, first of all, speak to the solicitor, but second of all, seek out a trusted advisor, trusted technology advisor that is independent, completely independent, that they can trust and help them. That's the only words I can give on advice, is to say, just check it out, or take some time to go and investigate yourself and understand your own technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are in the North Cheshire, South Manchester area, Danny's details will be in the show notes, so you can get hold of Danny and get him to help you out. But otherwise, please make sure that you are using somebody trusted who is going to have a really good look at what's going on with your technology, and make sure that they can make you safe and secure. Danny, thank you for joining me. It's been fantastic and enlightening to speak to you today. And
thank you, Tamsin.
see you very soon as well.
All right, take care.